Hi, welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Today is just me, it's a little solo episode. I wanted to take the time to answer the question that I get asked a lot. And specifically it is, how do I stay consistent with my healthy routine? And how do I get back on track after I fall off the wagon? So this past weekend was a long Memorial weekend where we had brunches here and there, and we had opportunities to eat dessert. And I have been actually sugar-free. I've been completely off refined sugar for 21 days in a row without having any sugar cravings, which is a huge win for me. And needless to say, I was a little nervous how I would go about this weekend. So I wanted to break down the weekend for you to show you how I approached it and how the way I think and the way I approach my health and my routines, to hopefully answer the initial questions like how do I stay consistent and how do I stay on track or get back on track. So let me share a little background. As I mentioned, I have been on a sugar-free journey. So the thing is that refined sugar and eating a lot of carbohydrates can spike up your sugar, and it can create this like up and down, like spike and then crash throughout your day, which ultimately makes you feel tired all the time. Not to mention it's a lot of stress for your body, which affects your hormones, your adrenal glands, and also is damaging to your health in terms of inflammation, and which is the root cause of a lot of chronic disease, including cancer, diabetes. I'm currently on a journey of healing my adrenal glands and also stabilizing my blood sugar. So removing sugar is really a no-brainer for me right now. I just had a very complicated relationship with sugar because I love pastries and cakes and ice cream so much. So that's why I decided to take the challenge this time. And thankfully, because I'm eating so much better than I used to, in a way that supports my stable blood sugar, it's been much easier. So that's a little background. Also, I've been getting off caffeine, which also assists with healing adrenal glands and hormones and like lower your cortisol and just stabilize your mood and your energy levels. So those are the two things that I've primarily been doing. And also, of course, I move my body every day. So I wanted to share with you a little bit like how this weekend came about and how I navigated those little aspects, right? So to keep myself more or less on track, but also enjoying my life. So Friday, I had a coffee date with a girlfriend, and usually I am so excited to have a second cup of coffee because normally when I'm home and I wake up really early, I have already had my first cup of coffee before I go out and leave the house. Normally, if I have like a coffee date with a friend or do anything, it's after I have my morning routine, and that involves having a cup of coffee. So right now I'm on week 2, which means I am on half caffeine level of intake. So as I went out to have a coffee date with my girlfriend, instead of having the second cup of full caffeinated coffee, I decided to have hot tea, those that come with tea bags, you know, because that way I can guarantee that there is no sugar in it, because I learned that most of the time, alternative or even whole milk sometimes in coffee shops have added sugar. So if I order even a decaf latte or even a matcha latte, it will most likely have sugar. So now whenever I go out and have coffee with anybody, I just order tea. So that was a successful day where I didn't have any more coffee and I didn't have any sugar, and I felt really good about myself. The next day, Jonathan and I went out for brunch, and I was already a little nervous. We even talked about like, hey, are we gonna go out? Because it was our 16th month together, and we like to celebrate every single month. But we were talking like, hey, are we gonna do this? Because like for sure it's gonna have sugar and there are going to be a lot of carbs. I've been on a lower carb diet to help stabilize my blood sugar, and I'll share in a separate video my whole blood sugar journey if you're interested. But for now, I'll just keep it at that, like to keep my blood sugar stable, I'm eating not that much carbohydrates, and definitely not the simple carbs, which is like white rice, white pasta, bread, and stuff like that, or potatoes. So usually when we go out, I learned that there's always sugar, either in the salad dressing, either in the food, or there's always carbs and bread, and there's just almost no way to go about it. So we were a little hesitant to go out to begin with, but we were like, okay, I also don't want to just be the person who's just always home and avoids everything, because that's also not healthy and that's not a way to live. So I look at the menu, and by the way, if you're on a really like strict or serious health kick, a little tip is to avoid looking at the menu altogether. You can just ask the waiter if the kitchen can make you something that fits your diet. So let's say if I'm avoiding carbs, which I'm not completely super avoiding it, I can ask, hey, can you guys make me an omelet with vegetables? Most of the time they'll say yes, because they already have the veggies, they already have the eggs. So, but I wanted to, you know, have a little fun. So I look at the menu, but I've never been that extreme, which there's no judgment. So I look at the menu and I see breakfast risotto, and I've never had a breakfast risotto, and I really, really like risotto. So I decided that I'm gonna have this. And thankfully my fiance was like, let's have salad before, because he knows me, because he knows by this point to help my blood sugar, if I have carbs, I need to at least have salad before. And ideally, you want to have fiber, protein, and fat before you have a lot of carbs. But the breakfast meal I was ordering was just breakfast risotto, so I'm just gonna have a little bit of salad at least. So in a way, I could have been like, oh, fuck it, I'm just gonna have, you know, a croissant with coffee and, you know, have a risotto. But since I was already doing something that I don't really have, like having a whole bowl of risotto is way more carbs than I usually have been eating lately. So at least the least I could do is order some salad. But because I know that salads in restaurants come with sugar-loaded dressings, I order just olive oil and lemon on the side. And ideally you want also apple cider vinegar, but I noticed a lot of restaurants don't have that. So I just, you know, went for lemon and olive oil. So at least I'm doing my best with having salad first and then also removing the sugar from salad. So you see how I'm not doing this whole like go big or go home, all or nothing approach. And then I know I'm not having any dessert, because like having this much carbs is already a lot for my body. Also, not to mention that I didn't eat the whole thing. I shared some with Jonathan. I ate until I was satisfied, like 80%, and then I let Jonathan finish my risotto. But then, because we were celebrating 16 months together, which, you know, Jonathan I think put as anniversary in the restaurant request, they brought us a little cake to celebrate, which was really kind, and I was very appreciative. So, you know, I ended up having a couple of spoons, and that brownie was so warm and so yummy, so I enjoyed every little spoon. And this is very important. If you're already eating something that is a treat and is off your diet, the worst thing you can do is feel guilty and beat yourself. If you're already having it, enjoy it, savor it, make the most of it. That's how you feel satisfied and don't have more cravings, and also have a little less than you would have. So I just shared with Jonathan, and I had half, maybe a little more, but it was like a mini brownie anyways. And then after we had this, we went to the gym. And it's a huge myth. I used to think like, oh my gosh, you have to wait at least 2 hours to work out. And yes, there is some truth of it. Obviously, don't go jogging or do anything like crazy, like active after a full meal. But I learned a trick from the glucose goddess that you absolutely can move your body. Ideally, I would go for a long walk or a long hike, but when it's super sunny out, and after brunch is usually sunny in California, so I didn't want to go take a walk because I am light sensitive and I don't like when it's too sunny and too hot outside. So I went to the gym. You know, we can still lift dumbbells or like do certain like machine exercises that don't involve using your stomach or being too active on your stomach. So that way my muscles can actually utilize the excess glucose that is now in my bloodstream because of the amount of carbohydrates and sugar that I just consumed during brunch. And ideally you want to do this within 60 to 90 minutes to ease the sugar spike. And because I did use my glucometer before, I know exactly around what time my sugar spikes. So that's why I aim to do that within that time frame. So notice how, again, I didn't have this approach, go big or go home, and then like after brunch, like go and the dessert, go like, hey, let's have boba, let's go have ice cream, and then let's sit at home and watch TV. I did whatever I could, meaning hit the gym to support my body after what already happened, meaning eating dessert and eating the carbs, right? And an important thing to point out is that I didn't go to the gym to punish myself. I didn't go to the gym, oh my gosh, like I need to go and burn all these calories, I'm gonna be fat. Like that was not at all my mentality. And what you think and how you talk to yourself is so absolutely important. You want to talk to yourself in a way that is loving. Your approach to diet and your movement, you want to have it in a way that is loving towards yourself. So I went to the gym thinking like, oh, I want to support my body. I want to minimize the stress that I just put on my body by eating the desserts. And of course, ideally, I wouldn't have eaten the dessert, but it is what it is. It already happened. And so now is like, what is the next best choice I can make? Meaning go to the gym. I did some movement for about 35 minutes. And then that evening, Jonathan and I had a very clean dinner, which is a usual thing for us. So instead of being like, oh, I'm already off the wagon, you know, let's have mac and cheese or something really treat and yummy for dinner, like comfort food, right? No, we went back to our normal healthy meal. And also not to mention that that morning we also had a smoothie early morning, because Jonathan and I usually wake up early around 7, so brunch was around 11, so we usually have had a smoothie by then. And yeah, so you know, it's all about like balancing your life. And so I only had one meal that was a treat that day. And then the next day we already had brunch scheduled with my parents. And even the night before we talked about like, hey, tomorrow is brunch, how are we going to approach this? Let's try our best to be healthier than we were today. But then we went there and it was a prefix menu. It wasn't a la carte, so it's not like I could order a salad or something else. It was already fixed, like 4 course, including dessert, of course. And so I was like, well, you know, I'm gonna, I guess, eat whatever is available. So because, you know, it was a beautiful day out, it was a holiday, I was out in Laguna Beach with my parents and my fiance. I just wanted to enjoy it, right? That being said, the first thing that hit our table was a basket of pastries and also fruits. And I'll share a little secret with you is when you have fruits or carbohydrates, and especially pastries, because pastries definitely have sugar, or just carbs in general, first thing before eating anything else, that will most likely spike up your sugar, which again will impact your energy levels throughout the day, will stress out your body, impact your cortisol, cause damages to your body in terms of mental health, hormone health, adrenal health, and like I said earlier, a sugar spike can also be damaging long-term and contribute to a lot of chronic diseases. So back to the basket of pastries and fruits. As tempting as it was, especially when they brought Jonathan coffee, I again did not order coffee because I am trying to minimize my coffee intake, and I already had my coffee with my morning routine before I went for brunch. So I wait until my main course comes out, and I ordered eggs Benedict with smoked salmon. And so I waited for my main course to arrive first, and I ate my eggs and my salmon before I ate the bread, the muffins that came with it, and the potatoes that came with it. And even that, I didn't eat all the bread and the potatoes. I shared most of it with Jonathan. And after I already had salmon and eggs, which is protein and fat, right? Then I went on and had a little bit of like potatoes, and I had a little bit of the poppy seed pastry that was in the basket. And of course, it took some restraint to not go for the lemon poppy seed pastry right away with coffee. So just because I was at brunch and just because I wanted to enjoy myself doesn't mean that I had to go all out, right? I can still do my best, make the best choices and decisions as I go. It's those micro moments, micro decisions, micro choices that do matter and do add up. I also forgot to mention that before I went to brunch, I had a glass of water with apple cider vinegar, which has been shown to minimize blood sugar if you drink it before you consume carbohydrates and sugar. And I knew that at brunch, I will most likely have something that is unusual. I learned from wearing a glucometer for a few months that no matter how hard you try, when you eat out, there is still sugar, or your blood sugar will still be increased a little bit. So that doesn't mean that, hey, then I'm just gonna fuck it and do whatever. I still do my best. So back to brunch. And then I have a little bit of the dessert that was flan. I again didn't finish the whole thing. I savored each bite, which helped me be satiated and be satisfied much sooner before I finished the whole thing. And then after that, we took a beautiful walk in Laguna Beach. And then of course, Jonathan and I again went to the gym and we lifted some weights, and I did some machines that didn't impact my stomach again, or, you know, didn't involve too much jumping up and down, or like anything that would make my stomach sick, with brunch still in there digesting. And then again for dinner, we had a very healthy, just fish and veggies, not much carbs. I don't think we had any carbohydrates, at least me. Jonathan sometimes has rice or something else that I don't. And then again that morning we had a green smoothie as well. And yeah, and then from then on comes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I completely was back with my healthy diet, just back to like morning green smoothie, lunch, dinner, similar things that I always do, mostly like, you know, fish or some type of protein, a lot of vegetables, usually vegetables first, and very, very low on carbohydrates, and fruit, because fruits actually count as carbs, surprisingly, right? You would think like, oh, fruits, healthy food, but fruits do have carbs, fruits do have sugar, and that is usually plenty for me. So that was just like a little breakdown how I approach and how I navigated the weekend and the treat meals, and how I didn't let myself fall off the wagon. I didn't put a label like, oh, you know, this weekend I'm off the wagon. I didn't give this weekend a meaning like, oh, okay, that's it, I'm off the wagon, I failed, I'm no longer on this no sugar kick, oh, that's it, that was only 3 weeks. No, I did 3 weeks, which by the way had a great impact on my body. It still counts. I can't say that I failed. And of course, a part of my mind, it's usually our ego wants to think like, oh, well, now you're back to square one. You could have gone longer. Well, I can go back now. And yes, maybe it's back to 0, but that doesn't mean that the 21 days that I did and where I was off sugar didn't count, because it does count, because it did have a beautiful positive effect on my body. My body got to detox and heal itself. So now I'm back to not eating sugar again until maybe my birthday, which is in a couple of weeks. And that's how ultimately I achieve the 90-10 balance that I usually try to have. 90% very, very healthy and clean, which also can be very delicious. And 10% is like whatever it is I want and whatever it is I'm craving. I hope this helps. I know sometimes navigating nutrition and food and like what to do, what to choose, and like decision making day to day can be so tricky, especially during the holidays, especially during special events, and especially when you go out. If you need help navigating this world of nutrition, and if you want to build a healthier relationship with food, with your body, and see what works for you, I am happy to help you come up with a personalized plan that is best for you and you only. I will put the Calendly link in the description below so you can click on it and schedule a free call with me, and we can see how I can support you. Thank you for watching until the end. See you next time.